going to do on this show is attempt to be responsible with what we say and not say anything we're not willing to back up and actually share as to why we think what we say, because otherwise we'd be irresponsible and we're not just going to make stuff up. But I'm sure by the end of the show, another Eagles player will probably this time go to the tallest building in the city and decide to get a megaphone and just yell some more stuff out, because that's what they do now. Let's get to our word of the day. The word of the day today is quiet. Quiet, because the Eagles can't be quiet even though they're 11-2. And I know throughout the day-to-day on social media, people watching, people listening will be going, why are you guys trying to make the most out of this? Why are you guys making such a big deal out of this? What? Huh? Huh? That doesn't make any sense, because clearly the Eagles don't want to be quiet about it. They can't be quiet. So the Eagles are 11-2. 11-2. They are factually 11-2. There is no opinion there. There's no feelings involved with that. They are 11-2. After the game, A.J. Brown was frustrated because they didn't win by as many points as he wanted them to win, and he, in a victory, did not get the ball enough. Because that's what this is, just the truth of the matter was, he was upset that he didn't get the ball even though the team won. Now, you can be okay with that. You can be against that, but that's what actually happened. Okay, there's no getting around it. That's not an opinion. A.J. Brown was upset that A.J. Brown didn't get the ball more in the victory over the Panthers. So right after the game, we've played it before, but let's go back to it again. This is what A.J. Brown had to say after the game.
What are some things you think that the offense needs to improve on? Passing.
AJ, I know everybody wants to get in a rhythm, and Devontae was acknowledging that. You know, receivers, just like running backs, want to get in rhythm. How hard is it as a receiver to get into a rhythm when you guys are only throwing the ball like 20 times?
Incredibly tough.
All right there, incredibly tough. The Eagles have been running the ball with a great deal of success, and they're 11-2 running the ball. Again, still have not yet stated opinion through 3 minutes of the show. So people can say that's no big deal. And I'm fine with you saying that's no big deal. That's an opinion. You can have that opinion. But, see, here's the problem with that opinion. If the Eagles thought it wasn't a big deal, then I can agree with you that it's not a big deal. But unfortunately, a pretty important Eagles player decided that it was a big deal. In fact, that Eagles player decided to then speak out publicly. Now, again, why can they not be quiet? You're 11-2. This is the time to be quiet. I didn't say this is the time to be happy. You can keep your unhappiness to yourself. But they need to go public. So he goes public with it. Okay. BG was concerned enough to where he felt like he had to address it publicly. Now, he can walk it back. He can apologize. But what he heard, because he knows more than we know, he also knows more importantly than all of you know. And for whatever reason, Brandon Graham felt like he needed to address it in public, because that's what actually happened. He addressed something in public after A.J. Brown addressed something in public. Now notice, who hasn't said a word public since he's been here? The quarterback. You know who else keeps stuff in-house all the time? I even have to give him credit. The head coach. Quiet. Be quiet, because going public makes it a bigger deal. Now, maybe Brandon Graham was wrong, or maybe Brandon Graham knows how A.J. Brown actually is. Maybe Brandon Graham knows what A.J. Brown's really all about and how he actually acts. Maybe he knows that A.J. Brown has thrown tantrums in the past that have hurt the locker room, and he felt the need to try to nip it at the bud early. Now, he did it in perhaps the worst way possible, because he thought A.J. should be quiet, and he made it clear in his comments who he was blaming. A guy on the team made it clear who he was blaming. So a media member can speculate and all that. So no. A player on the team told us who he had an issue with. A.J. He did not have an issue with the quarterback. Why do they feel the need for us to know all of this? Why do they feel the need for us to know all of this? I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's just a flaw in the locker room. But, Ricky, before you take over, because you played pro sport,
yep,
and you would know how you would feel if all this was coming out of your clubhouse. Jeff McClain was on this morning in his normal spot on Kincade and Salciunas. All right, the normal spot when he's on, Jeff McClain was on. So here's what Jeff McClain, who covers the team, okay, had to say on Kincade and Salciunas this morning about the situation.
As reported last year with Jalen Hurts, that became a little bit of an issue. He needed to open up more, and he was kind of too much inside his head, and the leaders needed that from him in certain circumstances because I guess when things happen, maybe he wasn't as approachable. You can't go to him. I've heard that Jalen's been a lot better this year, and I did a podcast episode on it last month, and in fact, I talked to BG about it, and he said, Jalen is definitely making more of an effort to be open with guys, doing, stuff outside the building, or just trying to make it more of an effort, because he is a stoic guy. He is kind of a reserve guy and keeps to himself and, really isn't kind of a rah-rah type leader. But that doesn't make it wrong. That just makes it who he is. But at times, it can affect guys if they're not getting what they need sometimes.
So, in the issue as far as the pass, Jeff McClain says, Hurts maybe last year wasn't so great at it. But like all of us can do, he can improve. And he improved his leadership. But one person stayed the same, it seems. And that's A.J. Brown. And I'm not saying A.J. Brown's not open a lot. And I'm not saying A.J. Brown's even wrong for what he said. But it's wrong that he wasn't quiet in public because now we know about it and now we have to talk about it. And Brandon Graham knows A.J. Brown's crazy because all wide receivers are crazy, felt the need to address it in a terrible way because he goes public with it. And now we end up here. So, Ricky Bo, you're a pro athlete. You know all about this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So I'm going to get completely out of the way. How would you feel if you were on a team where one guy says something in public and then another guy feels like he has to both chastise the public person and have the quarterback's back also in public?
The whole doubling down on the whole situation is wrong. To start with, look, nothing that happens within that locker room should ever get out of the locker room. We just had this problem with the Sixers not too long ago. Things getting out of the locker room are never good for the team. And I will tell you this much. I've seen fights in locker rooms. I've seen guys that hated each other in the locker rooms. I've seen it all. You know what? None of it ever got out. I don't know why this need to be the guy that tells the truth and come out to the public. Why? I mean, Brandon Graham, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that he would even go out and discuss this. All he had to say was, hey, that whatever happens in the locker room, it's in the locker room, and that's that. That's all he needed to say, and nobody talks about it ever again to him. You don't come out and start number one, you don't take sides. Number two, if you think one guy is a bad guy or one guy is a good guy, are you really going to come out and say that into the public eye? Because what does that do to the fan base? It turns them on one or the other. You don't want that. What you want is a civilized, or at least a picture of a civilized locker room is what you really want. You want everybody to be under the thought process that, those guys all get along. They love each other. They understand it. It's just the way the game is going right now. I mean, Nick Sirianni's done a pretty good job, and Kellen Moore have done a pretty good job trying to say that. But I think it all comes out as garbage after what already happened. So now you're in a situation where, okay, who could you trust? Think about the trust issues that happen within the locker room now. You think AJ's trusting any of his teammates now after Brandon Graham goes out and says something?
Well, the tough part, though, is he did start it by going public first.
He was in the wrong first. You're absolutely right. I mean, you know what? I look at it this way for AJ. I think he was sitting there pissed off after the game. Obviously, they won, but you're still pissed off. It would be like me going out there giving up 5 runs in an inning, and we win the game in extra innings, and everything's all right, except for I still have that fire going in the pit of my stomach. I think he still had a fire going in the pit of his stomach from the game. He doesn't like when he doesn't get the ball enough. I don't think that's a bad thing. But to say that it was the passing, what part of the game? The passing. That is pointing your finger at one person. And that's not something you want to do. All he had to say is, I wish I was getting the ball more. Would that have blown up? It's a choice of words. It really is. Yeah. And he had a choice to say something or not. And he pointed the finger at his quarterback. That is not going to hold well in a locker room. And now when Brandon Graham goes out, now it's going to get even worse. Because now you're thinking, who can I trust on the team? I thought Brandon Graham was my buddy. Why did he go out and say something too? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a trickle-down effect that you don't want in any locker room, and it tears the locker room apart. Because whether they say it or not, even if this will be fixed in some form.
Yeah.
To us, it will be fixed. But deep down to the players involved, do you think it's ever going to be fixed?
Well, it would depend. With this current cast of characters, no. Because
I'm talking about the guys that are involved right now. It's not going to go away.
Because A.J. Brown is still a wide receiver, and they're all crazy.
And as far as Brandon Graham, I mean, you think about what he said about A.J. and the way those two get along for the most part, that I would think would be the truth. That was coming directly out of the locker room.
Yeah, I still think that those guys don't hate each other. They did that stupid Fresh Prince thing like 2 weeks ago. Now, that also makes me wonder how AJ got that mad that quickly, because it's 2 games in a row, really. So they do the Fresh Prince thing, and when Devontae's out, 2 games later, he's losing his mind.
The other thing that's been neglected, maybe he was feeling this way and he did keep it in-house the game before or 2 games before.
Well, you keep it in-house forever, though.
Right.
You don't get a cookie for being in-house
but
for
like
part
you
of it,
said,
and then eventually go in public.
You said these wideouts.
They're crazy.
They're crazy.
All of them.
At some point, you're going to snap. Maybe that was his little snap time.
A win. Now, here's the thing I got to think about Brandon Graham's response, though. Do you think Brandon Graham responds if he doesn't think AJ's out of his mind? If he thinks AJ's just calm and just going to be super professional and it's just going to blow over, does Brandon Graham feel the need to address it publicly if he thinks everything's just going to be cool?
No. I think he wanted to address it to make sure that everybody knows about it and everybody's going to take care of it.
And that tells me that whether we like it or not,
it's not even his place, though.
It was ridiculous that he did it publicly.
Not even his place.
Mind-boggling.
It's ridiculous.
And now I'm sure he's in the doghouse in that locker room.
Especially since you're not playing. You're not playing.
That's probably why he did it. If he was playing,
Think
he wouldn't
about
have
the
done
tension
that.
in there right now.
Now Salciunas brought up that he's probably thinking, how can I help this team? How can I lead? And maybe that's why he did it. Either way, though, if he didn't think anything about A.J. Brown's words, he doesn't respond to them. So people can tell me all they want that it's no big deal. Why did a person on the team think that? You see, you can tell me. You can tell me why you think it's not a big deal. Fine. Why did a player in the locker room think it was a big deal? That one is the one that really has to be answered. Because at 11-2, you got A.J. Brown and Brandon Graham acting like children. Acting like children. And the good thing is, I don't have to kiss up to them to get them to talk to me. Some people will not tell you the truth because they got to meet up with them and stuff like that. I don't care. So I'm going to tell you the truth. Any way you slice it, Brandon Graham said something incorrectly in public because he thinks it was a possible problem. Now, why does he think that? Now, we keep talking about this common denominator between last year, and people want to point some haters. Some people who are not to be listened to or respected will say certain things. But there's quite a few people that are leftovers. Am I to believe that A.J. Brown was less crazy last season? Because I don't believe he was. Because I heard a great deal about him having major issues last season when he had like 1,400 yards. So you know he's going to have issues this season when they're running the ball. So Brandon Graham felt, I don't know why he felt it. No, I know why he felt it because he thinks A.J. Brown's crazy. He won't say that, but that's what his actions said. Should have did it in public. Don't know why he did it in public. Don't know why these guys can't be quiet. 11-2, and they don't know how to act. 11-2, and they don't know how to act.
Well, there's always a bit of selfishness.
11-2, and they don't know how to act. You see, so the fans will tell us, why are you guys feeding negativity? They're 11-2. Okay. Uh-huh. Is it us? Exactly.
I think that there was no media member that asked a crazy question. It was very stereotypical questions being asked post-game. And also, so far, I don't think I've seen anyone write anything that had really blown it and added any more fire. It was the own players that added more fire to it.
It's just them.
Yes.
It's literally just them. The truth of the matter is, they don't know how to deal with adversity while they're winning. They didn't know how to deal with it last year. They don't know how to deal with it this year. According to Jeff McClain and many others, Hurts has gotten better as a leader. Sirianni has gotten better. I wonder which people didn't get better year over year with handling this. Because the one thing I want to know is if, and we saw who Brandon Graham sided with, you notice who's not said a word publicly and been professional throughout this whole thing? The quarterback.
He hasn't said a word.
Now, I'm not saying that they're perfect. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying part of being professional is being quiet. A big part of being professional is being quiet. Like today. I'll be honest. I'll pull the curtain back a little bit. I'm mad at like 7 people that work here today. But I'm not going to actually go on and actually say my grievances because I'm a professional. I'm not going to go on and go, hey, what's the problem? I could do, like if Ricky asked me that question, you guys witnesses, I could answer that question just like A.J. Brown. But you don't do it just because you can do it. Well, you don't say passing you something. You know what? We got to add, the running game's going so well, we got to add to the passing game. We got to be more balanced. Now, if he says that, no one has an issue.
Nobody says anything.
But he says passing. So, again, it's not.
This. It's pointing a finger is what the problem is.
Before he could even really finish the question.
He's just passing. Had he just given an answer I just gave, it's nothing.
The thing that bothers me, though,
nothing.
too, you don't think Jalen's upset about it, too?
Of course he is.
Do you see what I mean? They're both kind of in the same boat.
I just think it's inexcusable for something like this to happen, especially regarding last year and just all the talks about, how a locker room could be disgruntled. And then the fact that you come out and you kind of just make a non-issue an issue so quickly just by after a win.
After a win, and you're 11-2.
It is expected for everything to not be perfect, and I think his feelings are valid, but what is not valid is saying that to the public, because obviously there's going to be issues, but what good? How have we not learned that there is absolutely no good in saying it to the public?
I don't understand it, and this is where it goes beyond a sports thing. This now becomes a workplace thing. Now, at my job, right? I don't like to discuss things that I can't change. So what I mean is, if we're going to have a meeting, you can just tell me something, text me, email me. Unless I can make a change, I don't want to meet because there's nothing to discuss because I was told to do something. There's no discussion there. I don't need an explanation at that point. These guys can change the passing game because they got film and practice every week. So I could understand why you would say something privately. But what was gained? Now think about this. What was gained from A.J. Brown and Brandon Graham going public? What was gained? And why it would have been a million times better if they were just quiet. Just quiet.
Everything, if anything gets out to the media, you are in trouble. It's not going to stop.
Dude, you had to be quiet for like 30 minutes.
And by the way,
the media left.
Right.
By the way, I hate to say this, but the media is not just us. The media is anybody on Twitter, anybody on Instagram. Once it gets out there, people are going to have comments.
Exactly. They pass out these credentials
It's
nowadays.
so much wider now. It's unbelievable.
Just anybody.
Stop being stupid. You got a problem with a teammate, you go to your teammate.
Exactly. Go to your coaching staff.
The only thing that could have happened is maybe he has already gone
Doesn't matter.
But still, he couldn't hold it in. He couldn't help himself.
But that's not all right. It's not all right because then look what it led to. Brandon Graham was so concerned about A.J. Brown going crazy that he felt like he had to say something.
Isn't that awful?
Because he thinks A.J.'s crazy.
And then he also insinuated that it was more so because of personal reasons.
Right.
That was
That's even worse.
Which makes it worse.
So now you're not even mad about your targets? You mad at Jalen Hurts about something in your private life? I don't give a damn about your private life.
That's why I don't think it was what you said, Ricky, that he mentioned it before and it didn't get answered. I think
It's personal.
Well, because of what Brandon Graham said. That's
It's
insinuated that it was personal.
It's personal.
And by the way, I have to take what Brandon Graham said and think that it's all 100% true.
Thanks so much, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. If you want more of this content, make sure you like and subscribe. And you can do that kind of over here if you want more of the best show ever.